All right, so this is going to be the second practice drawing. So this one we're going to do a similar concept, city, street corner, but now we're going to use 2-point perspective. So to start off is going to be kind of similar. Um, so we're going to start with the horizon line again. For this image, we're going to put the horizon line about halfway down the page. So we're going to go like right here. That looks pretty good. So put a horizon line. And then the big difference between 1 and 2-point perspective is that the reason it's called 2-point is because we have 2 vanishing points instead of 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to put 1 vanishing point on the far left, and it needs to be on the horizon line. Whoops. Oh, that's too big. Hold on. Let's make it. There we go. That's good. And then 1 vanishing point on the far right, okay, of your paper. And keep in mind, for the most part, these perspective drawings are landscapes, so you do want your paper to be like horizontal the longer way. It's not that you can't do it vertically, it just depends on what makes sense for the image you're doing. So you can decide on your final, I guess, what orientation makes the most sense, right? Okay, so now, in 1-point perspective, the general rule was we started with a shape. So we would start with like the square rectangle and then draw the corners. 2-point perspective is different. And basically, as you move up the perspective, so as we go to 2-point and 3-point, more and more lines use vanishing points and less lines are just like horizontals and verticals, okay? So the way you start a basic cube or a basic object in 2-point is you just start with a vertical line. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a vertical line like right here. And that's going to indicate the top and bottom of my building. So just make it whatever height you want that initial building to be. So this is going to represent like the front corner of the building. And so the big thing is if you're looking at images in real life, and trying to see perspective in real life, you have to have the right angle to show the right kind of perspective. So if you want to see 2-point perspective, you typically need to be looking right at the angle or on the corner of something, and so that you can see 2 different walls go in different directions. So what's going to happen is this line is going to be the corner of our building. And then what we do is we take the top and bottom to both vanishing points. So I'm going to go to the left vanishing point. So the left wall is going to go this way. And then we're going to take the top and bottom to the right vanishing point. Okay. Like this. Um, and now basically what we have, you can imagine this as just like one really big long structure going all the way back in space. So then once again, we just do vertical lines to cut it off. So let's say I want the left side of my building to end here. I would just do a vertical line right here in between those. And if I want the right side to end here, I just do a vertical line like that. Okay. And then you should see that that's basically like a building sitting in there. And then as we draw our buildings in, we can get rid of some of the extra lines that are crossing over, right? Okay, so like something like that. Okay, so there's one building. So now the first thing I'll show you is, well, how do we just add another building in? So let's say we want to add a building on the left side and we want it to be the exact same height as this one. We just use the guides that are already there. So all I would simply do is I would just figure out what the gap between the buildings is. So maybe I want to be this far away. I make a vertical line from top to bottom like that. Okay, so there's my next vertical line. And then we follow the same rule. We take the top and bottom to both vanishing points. Well, the left lines are already going to the left vanishing point. So for this building, I simply just need to cut it off. So I'm going to make a vertical line over here. Now, the big thing is I want to make sure that the thickness here is a little bit thinner than the thickness here, because as something gets farther away, it gets smaller. And then this was my original line, so I'm going to take the top and bottom to the other vanishing point. Now, what you can do here is you don't have to go all the way. You can just like stop when you hit a line. So we're going to take the top to the right vanishing point and the bottom here to the right vanishing point, like that. But when you're drawing it with a pencil, just stop right there. Okay. Now, if I take my eraser, we can kind of start, let me just start like right here. We can kind of start to pull the building out by getting rid of extra lines. So I'm going to get rid of this one. I'm going to get rid of this one here and this one here. Okay. And just keep in mind for the final project for this, at a bare minimum, you will need to do 2-point perspective. The 1-point perspective is just more for review to make sure you guys all understand it. All right, so now let's say I want to do another building, but I want it to be shorter, right? So all you would do, it's really important. So let's say the next building, what we can do is, let's say there's no more buildings that are going to be that exact same height. I could theoretically get rid of this top guideline here. So let me just see. Okay, so I could get rid of that top guide, but I want to leave the bottom guideline because the bottom of all the buildings, if assuming that they're in a nice row together on the street, you would want to keep that. So the next building, all I would do is I would just pick a vertical line where I want to put it. Now the gap in between should be a little bit skinnier because we're getting farther away, but I just have to just make it not as tall. So let's say this building's a little bit shorter. I'll still have the bottom line up here, but the height doesn't have to be as tall as the other ones. And then same thing, just take top and bottom to both vanishing points. So I'll go to vanishing point here. The bottom's already going there. So then I simply just decide how wide this building's going to be. So let's just make it a little bit skinnier. And I'm going to take this right side to the right vanishing point. So something like that. And this building might be a little bit smaller where it might not actually go all the way and touch. Let's take this bottom corner to the right vanishing point as well. And it would be something like that. And then just do a vertical line to cut it off where you want it to go. Okay, something like that. So that would just be like another building sitting next to it. And then if we take our eraser, get rid of some of these lines in between, you guys will kind of see what's going on here. Okay. Okay, so something like that. So I've kind of got 3 buildings on that side. So to do it on the right side, it would be the same thing. So we'll just do one really quick, and then I'll show you a couple other tricks here. So this one here, just once again, pick how far away you want it to go. We'll just make this one the same size. So we'll actually no, let's do this next building a little taller. So let's go above the line. We'll let this building be taller. So we'll go way up here, but then we'll go down to the bottom line. Okay, and then just take, so the general rule, okay, when you're drawing just a basic cube, you start with a vertical line and then take the top and bottom to both vanishing points. So this would go down to this vanishing point. The bottom line is already there. And then this would go to the left vanishing point. I'm not going to draw it all the way just because I know it's not going to go that far. So we'll just go down to like that. Okay, and then this bottom would go to this left vanishing point as well. So one of the general rules here, and I can just do like a vertical line here to kind of cut it off behind. So there will be exceptions, but for the most part, when you're doing 2-point perspective, your lines will either be vertical or going to one of the vanishing points. Like if you find yourself just kind of like inventing and making up a direction of the line, it's probably incorrect. Now there are exceptions where like you'll have to do a line that's just simply parallel to something else. But it just depends. And I'm going to do a vertical line here to cut it off. But you can see for what I've drawn so far, this whole setup, it's all vertical lines or lines going to a vanishing point. But I don't just have like any random horizontal lines just doing their own thing. Okay. Now another thing is let's say maybe there's just a building back here in the background, right? So you at any point could just make a vertical line that's just stemming out back here. And then all you would do is take the top and bottom to both vanishing points, right? So I could go down like that. This could go down like this. I might not draw it all the way just so I don't have to erase as much. Okay, but then all I would do is I would cut that off, and maybe this is going to be like a skinnier little building, way back in the background. Could be like a tall skyscraper back there or something like that. Okay, so that would just be simply adding another building way off into the distance. And then you could do other things like change the designs up. Like not every building has to be like a perfect rectangle. This is just a starting point, and once again, kind of just a review to get you guys understanding the basics of 2-point, right? But like you could back here, and this is going to look bad because I'm using my mouse, but like maybe this building has like a dome top or something, and then it's got like like a needle sticking out or something, like a cathedral or something. Like you could just hand draw stuff like that. Not everything is like 100% in perspective, right? All right. So we've got the basis down. So I would say for this drawing, just have a minimum of like 3 to 4 buildings. Try a couple different heights. Try maybe adding a couple of details, things like that. Okay. One thing I'll review really quick, and in these drawings, I'm not doing a ton of detail because in Google Classroom, you'll see a section of videos called optional. That's where I like go over and show like a lot of details for things, and you can kind of review that from Intro to Art. But like, for example, if I wanted to do like windows on one of these buildings, the whole idea is you would just start, and I might go a little bit skinnier line here. So let's say I want to do like a row of windows on this building. I would just do like a vertical line like this. And then all I would do is take the top and bottom to the right vanishing point. And the reason I'm using the right vanishing point, anytime you're drawing something on a wall, look at where the wall is going. So you can see the top and bottom of this wall, they're angling towards that right vanishing point. So all my windows on here should angle the same way. So what would happen is this would go down towards the vanishing point. Now I can't really see my vanishing point from here. I'm just kind of guessing, but on your paper, you would actually line up your ruler, make sure that these lines are going to the vanishing point. Okay, and then I might do something like this. So now this big opening that I made here could just be a guideline for where I want to put windows, right? So then I might just do a series of vertical lines that get like a little bit skinnier as I move down. But this is going to determine my windows, right? So let's do this. And let's just do one more, like right here. Okay. And the windows, like the width in between here should just get a little bit skinnier each time. And then what you would want to do with your ruler is you kind of would want to measure out and make a bunch of dots here that are like equally spaced. So there's a dot there, dot there. So I'm not actually measuring, I'm kind of eyeballing it, but you would want to actually measure these out and make a bunch of dots here. And then if those dots are all measured out evenly, then those can be your guides for where your windows would go. So I would take this line down to the vanishing point, this to the vanishing point. I think you get the idea. And you can see how these are crossing over and making windows, right? And then I could take my eraser and then I could just decide like maybe the gap is going to be here. So I could erase all this out. I could erase this out here. Okay, this is just the basics. So drawing doors would be very similar. Um, Anything attached to it, like if you're drawing an awning or something, it would use vanishing points. So I think I've got stuff like that in my other demo video. So I don't want this video to get too long. I just want you guys to see the basics. But that would be how you do windows. And then I could leave this as a row of like really connected windows all together, or I could erase out a gap in between here and have the windows be a little bit more spaced out. But if you just start with that as a guide, then it's really easy just to draw in and decide how many windows you want, where you want to put them, things like that. Okay. So that's just some basic, like small detail type things. You could do bricks in a similar manner. A lot of different things we could do. So the next thing I want to show you is how we could do like a little sidewalk down here. So what I would do is this. I'll zoom in just a little bit, but I'm going to have to zoom out again. But like right underneath this first front building, all I would do is make like a really small vertical line. So we'll go right here. So like if I just go down here, I figure out about how far away the sidewalk's going to be. I just do like a little, whoops, wrong tool. Hold on. Or no, I had the right tool on. Okay, hold on. So it's like a little vertical line like this. Like that's going to basically just be like how thick the sidewalk is. And then all you do, so I'm going to zoom out now that I have that's this little line right here. I just take the top and bottom of that to both vanishing points. So I'm going to go like that. I'm going to go like this. Okay. Okay, so now I've drawn that to both vanishing points, right? And then what's going to happen is I'm actually going to go from the left vanishing point and draw another line out to get like the thickness of it. And I'm going to kind of decide where I want it to go, probably like right here. But this line is coming from the left vanishing point. And then I'm going to go from the other vanishing point out like this and kind of determine the thickness of my sidewalk and kind of connect those up. Something like that. So that would be the basis of getting like a little sidewalk there. And then what you could do is I would actually from the right vanishing point, I would continue this line out actually like this. And then I would continue this line out as well. So let me just get back on the vanishing point here. So I would have that line continue out as well. So it kind of crosses. Because then what we can do is we can get these little sidewalk lines. And then I could actually make a vertical line right here. And you'll see that it'll kind of look like a thin little cube, like actually having the thickness of a sidewalk, right? Then what you would do essentially is you would just make like a series of dots along this edge that progressively get a little bit closer together. Okay. And you would do it as far as you want. I'm not going to do the whole thing, but and then these dots then on this side would all go to the left vanishing point. So then it would come out like that. And then what's going to happen is you're going to get these really nice angled sidewalk lines, but they need to use the left vanishing point. a big mistake people do when they're trying to do sidewalks is they just make these perfectly horizontal, and then they don't look right. Okay, so yeah, I'm just trying to make sure. So you can see, and then that's going to kind of get skinnier. And then you do the same thing on this side, right? So then you'd use the right vanishing point, and then all of these sidewalk lines here would use that right vanishing point. And you just make sure that they kind of get skinnier as you go through. Okay, so yeah, something like that. And they're gonna kind of angle a little bit as they go, but that's gonna keep the perspective. So this would be the start of a city corner with a nice little sidewalk here. And then what I could do is I could take another line out from here and actually turn this into the road that would connect up to the sidewalk. Okay, and then this could be like the road in between. You could have like the lines on the road, whatever. And then you could start to develop this out and draw details. There could be people walking on the sidewalk. You could draw street lamps. Um, all kinds of fun things, right? And actually what I'll do, I'll show you street lamps really quick. I'm gonna take and whoops, hold on. That line wasn't set yet. There we go. Set that in. Okay. I'm gonna just draw these in red because I'm gonna be drawing over things. I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. But like let's say I wanted like some street lamps like along the sidewalk, right? So like let's say the street lamps are sitting like right on this line right here. So I could leave that, and then for the height of the street lamps, I would just draw like a line out from, if I'm doing it on the right side, I would draw out from the right vanishing point however tall I want the street lamps to be. And then what you would do is you would basically start with a vertical line. So like if these were just standing posts basically, um let me just go a little bit thicker here. So let's say this was just like a standing post, like, you could just draw them like this and then just make them get kind of skinnier as they go. Whoops. Oh, okay. So this would be like this could be the base of if you're drawing trees or street lamps or whatever. So maybe these are just little street lamps that have like little balls on the top. That could be an idea. And then I just want to make sure that these balls get like a little bit smaller as it gets farther away. Okay, something like that. But then basically as they're going down, the height is kind of shrinking, right? Or if you did like a, this is going to look bad because I'm drawing with a mouse, but some of them are like curved street lamps. So maybe it comes up and then at the top it kind of curves down and then you'd like have the light here, and then it could be like shining down like that. So then you would just draw a bunch of these street lamps like that in that manner, but then you just keep them within the guides and you just make sure that they're sitting within there. So that's just a couple of ideas. But if you were to draw like little lights or street lights or whatever, that could be an idea of how to do that there. Okay. All right. So I think I'm going to stop there for the 2 point video. So for this practice drawing, do something like what I have as a starting base and then maybe add a few details in. I do think that what you should do as well is I do want to see a light source on this one. So go ahead and maybe put like a sun up in one of the corners. And then once again, you're going to imagine just there's going to be the light source coming out, right? So you're going to imagine the rays are shooting out in this direction. So what you'd want to do is decide where your values are going to go. So once again, um, and we'll see if this works or not. Paint bucket here. So like that would be my darker value, right, on this side here. And then this side of the building would be a lighter value because it's getting more light. Okay. Same thing here is if this is a street lamp, you would have like little circular highlights down here on the sidewalk, but try to put some shading and value. Now, once again, this is a practice drawing, so it doesn't need to be like a fully fleshed out professional drawing, but I would say give me a minimum of like 3 to 4 solid buildings drawn. See if you can do the sidewalk, maybe try to do the street lamps. And then maybe just shade a couple of the buildings all the way. You don't have to shade every building. If you decide you do want to flesh it out though and make it like a really nice clean drawing, like you totally could do that, right? So let me go back to this one here. So this building would kind of follow that same methodology where like this side, and yeah, the windows are getting filled in and they shouldn't be or whatever. But let's say this side is all, like this lighter gray. So then there could be a cast shadow out here, right? So if I were to just take this as like a guide and I wanted a cast shadow coming out of this building, we could say the sun is like another vanishing point. Hold on, it's a little too thick. Let me go thinner here. Sun is kind of like another vanishing point for the light source. So now that light source, if I line it up with the corners of this building out here, and let's say I just bring that out, but that's coming from the vanishing point, or not from the vanishing point, but from the light source, right? So if you take your ruler and you draw a couple of guides out like that from the light source, then this little section in here would have a little bit of a shaded value to it, right? We'll see if this actually works. But then, yeah, this whole thing here would be like a little bit darker because it's covered in that shadow. And I would take this maybe and even go in here. And you can see that that now is reflecting. So if this were all like really bright, covered by sun, that building now is casting that looming shadow over it. And kind of doing its thing there. All right. So that'll be the demo for the 2-point drawing.